Welcome to the Chapter 2 lecture video. Today, our video is on the group counselor. If you want to follow along, this starts on page 27, and page 27 lists our learning objectives, the things that you should be able to do when you are done with this module. Okay, so on page, where are we at? Pages. Looks like it starts on the bottom of page 30 and it goes through to, there's a lot here, right? So this goes on to page like 37. And it goes through each of these personal characteristics and kind of goes into some detail about why some of these are important when thinking about like effectiveness of a group counselor. So research has shown, right, that the therapeutic relationship or the therapeutic alliance is really big in whether or not someone's going to get better. And so some of these personal characteristics are some things that we probably already possess. We may want to accentuate them some or improve upon them, but they're things that can help build that relationship and to create more effective outcomes. So I'm not going to go into detail about every one of these. I do think that there's a few that I do want to touch on. So belief in group process. If we don't believe that they can get better, like who will, right? A lot of times people come in after making so many mistakes and so many people not believing in them anymore. And usually people don't just come to therapy when things are just like, or group, I should say, in any helping profession, but they don't come in either when things are great or when things are maybe just starting to get kind of bad. Usually things kind of get worse before they're willing to like come in and look at some of this stuff. So they probably come in somewhat defeated maybe, or hopeless or helpless, feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. So we need to believe in them and believe that the group process can be a part of what gets them where they want to be. Presence is another one that I just want to touch on. So this is not always super easy, and today, we live in a world where we're multitasking all the time. There's not a whole lot of monotasking, right? Like we eat and we play on our phones and watch TV, right? Like we're doing a lot of times multiple things at once. So when we are helping professionals, though, we do want to try to monotask. And I know in group you're not necessarily monotasking in the sense that you're just with one client. I mean, you're with multiple people, but you want to like just still be in the room, right? And just kind of be aware of people's nonverbals, be aware of what they're saying, pick up on, little tensions or little things that are going on. So we do want to be in the room, right? And we're not going to do it perfectly. Our mind is going to wander. It is normal and it is okay. When we notice it, right, we just bring it back. We're going to talk a lot about like willingness to model throughout the chapters. I'm not going to go into, like I said, a lot of detail here, but we are wanting to model healthy and appropriate behaviors. So subtle cultural issues. So that's a kind of a big thing, is we want to be culturally respectful, culturally competent, I guess, is kind of there's kind of a scale there of kind of being like blind and not so competent, right? We want to be more on the edge of being aware of other people's cultures, how things might affect them, how they may see things differently than us, and that that's okay. And so, especially in a group setting, you have a lot of people that might have very, very different cultures, or they may even look very similar, right? They might be on the outside, you look like you have a kind of homogenous group, but then every person might have some little subtle kind of like cultural differences that could be from their family, where they were raised, religion, etc. So we do want to be aware of different kind of cultural issues. This continues, right? Second slide. I like the being able to identify with the client's pain. So that is that empathy. We might not have experienced it, but we can see and maybe understand where their pain is coming from, or what it would be like if we were going through a similar situation. So I want you to turn to, let's look at page 34. And this one is under personal power. So the book describes personal power as people with a strong sense of self. They are congruent and can be genuine in their interpersonal relationships. They recognize and accept their weaknesses and don't expend energy concealing them from others and themselves. I know I mixed a few words up there, but you get the gist. So personal power, right? It's like I know who I am, right? And I am okay with who I am. And I don't have to hide who I am. I can be me. And so I am sometimes, sensitive. I sometimes get anxious in conflict. There are ways that we can be powerful if we know these are my strengths, these are my, I don't like so much weaknesses, but my not so strengths, right? And if I'm aware of them and I can be genuine and I don't have to hide them, I can be like, ooh, right, I'm feeling a little discomfort here, right? What is this like for you guys? And so it's okay to acknowledge some things and then to kind of see what the group's got going on. That's another great way to model, right? That we don't have to be perfect. We can be ourselves and we don't have to hide things. So let's see. Self-care. Okay, yeah, commitment to self-care. So this is really, really big. As counselors, helping professionals. Counselors maybe one day, right? But for now, helping professionals. We are, if we can't, take care of ourselves, if we get ourselves burnout, if we start to get to where we are not aware of ourselves, right? If we start to overlook those weaknesses, if we start having transference where somebody triggers us, right? And we start, we don't see it, and then we act on it, we can actually do some harm. And so it says in the book on page 35, like, self-care is not a luxury, but an ethical mandate. So it's not something that we can just not do because we don't feel like it or we don't have time. Like, it's important that no matter what, we make it a priority. And this could be a whole class, and self-care can be so many different things. But self-care is definitely like being attuned to my body, being attuned to my mind, my emotions, my physical body, um, and taking care of the things that I need. So sometimes self-care is naps and getting my hair done, or some of those more like traditional like views of what self-care is. But self-care can also be going on a walk or going on a run. It can be doing that task that I've been putting on forever, and that like anxiety is kind of lingering back here, right? And um, so self-care is super important. All of these are right important. So please take the time to kind of read through these in the book and pick up. There's an exercise we're going to do where we're going to kind of look at our personal things that we, personal and professional skills that we kind of have, and the ones that we want to work on. So, as a professional, right? And so we are all people, and we all have our own style and our own strengths and weaknesses. We have our own little flair for things, and some people are use humor a lot, or some people are maybe a little bit more stoic, or some people have different techniques that they like to use more. And so we all have our own style, and it is important personally and professionally to be okay with having your own style, right? Like, you don't have to be me, and you don't have to be Dr. Doan, and you don't have to be your supervisor or your coworker. Like, you can definitely learn things from them. You can watch them and think, I like that about them. I want to be that way. I want to use that skill. But you can find your own style, and it will take some time, right? So don't, it is super normal to go into it and it's like, this is awkward, I'm uncomfortable, I'm very hyper aware and vigilant of everything I say, and like, did I do okay? Like, that is normal in the beginning, and eventually you'll get more comfortable, and you'll kind of figure out the things that work for you and your style. It is important to we can fall into we can stagnate, right? We can kind of like not progress further without like supervision, continuing education, continuing to learn and try those things. So it doesn't take just doing things, but it does take continuing to try to do better, try to learn things, seeking guidance from others, seeking supervision. Those kind of things can help us. So again, the therapeutic relationship is huge, right? So if you go into a room and you're in a group, and you're in a group with a bunch of people you don't know, and you've got this group leader, and you're like, I'm just not feeling it, right? I can't relate to them. There's no relationship there. Maybe they just come in and they're just like asking a bunch of closed-ended questions, or they're not like checking in. Hey, how are you guys? Like, what are some things that you like? Like, kind of getting to know you as a person. But maybe they're just really focused on like, we are here because you use drugs, and we just need to fix that, right? So like, so very, I guess, on task so much, and so it is okay to take some time to build some rapport, get to know each other, do some activities, and we'll talk about icebreakers later that are sometimes more of those fun activities, but they're very purposeful right? It kind of opens some people up and gets them talking. So you do want to, come at it with like, genuineness, empathy, warm, right? We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to feel like they can share. We want them to feel open. I just realized this is 14 minutes and I am talking way too much. So Skills, starting on page 38 and working through to page 44, it lists the skills. So it says here that skills can be acquired and refined, and that was what I was talking about, right? We want to um, continue to grow and learn. It is an art, right? Like I said, we all have our own style. We might have similar techniques, but we all have our own way of delivering it, and we can kind of find what works for us. So these are some of the, oh, I think I'm missing a page because that says 2 of 2. So what I want you guys to do, right, is go through the book and read these. Like the ones that aren't listed here, we have active listening, which again is that presence, right? We're in the room, we're listening, we're picking up on nonverbals and verbals. Reflecting, oh my gosh, reflecting is such an awesome skill. It's something that you can use in your professional and your personal life, but you know, it's just kind of like coming back like a really brief summary in our own words of like I hear you, right? So if someone's like, oh my gosh, like I'm so stressed out, I come home and it's a mess and work is busy and the kids have destroyed everything and my husband's just sitting there on the couch, and you'd be like, wow, it sounds like, you know, you're kind of stressed, like there's a lot going on, and maybe you feel like you don't have some support, right? And she'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, right? And so then she would keep talking, and so reflecting is an awesome way to let people know we're hearing them and to ensure that we're hearing them correctly, right? Because they will correct us if we get something wrong. Clarifying is also sort of that they will, when we reflect and we maybe want to clarify something, am I hearing this correctly? Is this what you're saying, right? They will let us know whether we're right or not. Summarizing, of course, is another, like it's real in that reflection category of just like, you know, maybe someone gives you a whole bunch of information, or you're at the end of the session and you want to just be like, all right, let's just kind of have a quick summary. Like, let me just make sure this is, you know, got everything. This is what you said. So then facilitating is more of like I'm facilitating group, and I'm facilitating helping people share in group, maybe the some of the direction of group, and this is on page 40, trying to get people involved in group, more people sharing in group, right? Trying to get some emotions maybe talked about, or sometimes you start out, you know, kind of more on the surface level, but we want to eventually kind of dig deeper. Empathy, right? We talked about that. Interpreting is kind of like I was sharing. Sometimes we might want to, like in my example of my reflection, it was like, and you feel like you don't have any support or help, right? And so I was kind of like interpreting, is that what you're saying here? And it says here, it's important to be presented as a hypothesis rather than a fact, right? So we're kind of like, yeah, hey, is this right? I'm guessing that this might be what's going on here. Questioning, so you know how I said like you don't want to just like come in with all these closed-ended questions and being like, you know, like just these kind of like straight, like it can almost feel like an interrogation or just like I'm bombarding someone. So we want to try to do some open-ended questions where we're just like instead of like, did you have a good day? You know, you're like, so tell me about your day, right? That kind of gets people talking more, and you can get a lot of information that way with very few questions, and people like that. They often like don't like feeling bombarded. We will go more into confronting, but being able to like if we see incongruence, for example, like if somebody's telling this like devastating story about like maybe of abuse or something, but they're smiling, right? We might be like, hey, I just noticed, right, that while you were telling that story, you were smiling, and I'm wondering, can you tell me a little bit more about, like, you know, tell me more about that. supporting. Now we're to this page. And so, like I said, I don't want to make this video too long, so we're going to jump ahead. So I want to go to page 45. And this is the assignment. This is going to be your discussion board, okay? So learning in action, what we want to do is we want to, I want you to go through, there's 18 questions, I think, and it starts on 45 and it goes to 47. And I want you to rate yourself on how well you think you do these things at the current time, right? So it's got a 1, 2, and 3. I do this occasionally with relatively low level of competence. I do this some of the time with an adequate degree, and I do this most of the time with a high degree of competence. And so again, like, there's no right or wrong. Like I was sharing earlier, like, it's important to know our strengths and our weaknesses, and that's actually where we get our power. So there is nothing wrong with this. And then when you go into the discussion board, you'll be able to see, like, so you're not going to just like go through and pick all of these. I want you to go through and I want you to answer all of them. And then at the end, we're going to kind of pick a couple of them to talk about in the discussion board. And there'll be more instruction in the actual like written instruction in the discussion board. So that's where you'll find, right, your discussion board assignment for this. Really quick, co-leadership can be helpful because you're having another set of eyes, somebody that can kind of help manage the group process. So I used to do a lot of substance abuse groups, and sometimes people would come in and they would be intoxicated, or when I did VASAP, we'd have to do the breathalyzers, right? And sometimes they'd come in and they'd have a positive breathalyzer, and so I would have to, and I was the only leader, right? And so I'd have to, like, I couldn't go on with group because I had to address this, so then they had to wait, and then once I addressed that, come back and do group. So it was a little bit, it would have been nice sometimes to have like a co-leader that could either continue with group, or they could have dealt with, right, the person that needed to be talked to outside of group. Some disadvantages. Basically, the disadvantages are like if you guys can't get on the same page, and if you guys have like just maybe too many differences, right? Like you are like when you have two magnets and I can't remember how that works, but sometimes they stick together and sometimes they fight against each other, right? So that can be like the disadvantages, is just when you're not working together. But please read through this because there's so much great information in this book. So basically, like research shows that group is super effective. The client-therapist relationship is central to it. There are evidence-based practices that again are kind of proven to work. And as far as like your guys' practice, what I want you to think about is if you don't have like formal, like maybe pre or post tests, or maybe you could have client satisfaction surveys to just see like how was group, did I do okay, how is all of this. But you can always just ask them too, like, how was group today? What did you get out of group today? Did this work for you guys? Did you like this? Like, you know what I mean? You can also do sort of a more non-formal like check-in. How are things going? So I'm so sorry the video went so long. My apologies. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.